Queen Anne homes evoke a certain enchantment in the realm of American residential architecture. With their asymmetrical facades, whimsical turrets, wraparound porches, and generous gingerbreading, they stand apart in a landscape that often gravitates towards boxy uniformity. A person today might find such houses downright enchanting, like something out of a fairy tale, but behind their fantastical silhouettes is a story of one of the most influential figures in popularizing them nationwide, George Franklin Barber. Hi everyone, Ken here. Hit that subscribe button and let's explore this house. While we could spend time tracing the broader English roots of Queen Anne architecture, an outgrowth of architect Richard Norman Shaw's designs, and a revival of older patterns, it suffices here to note that this style arrived on American shores at precisely the right cultural moment. The nation was at the height of the Victorian era, with industrial growth fueling optimism and wealth in many regions. Industrialization brought better transportation networks and communication systems, ensuring that architectural ideas spread rapidly. It was during this dynamic period that George F. Barber, born in 1854, stepped onto the scene and forever altered the trajectory of American domestic design. He did not emerge from an elite architectural school, far from it. He was largely self-taught, reflecting an era when formal credentials were not always the gatekeepers they are today. He was born in DeKalb, Illinois, and from an early age showed an aptitude for design. By his late 20s, he moved to Knoxville, Tennessee, partly for health reasons and hopes of milder winters, but also for the fresh professional prospects in a region on the rise. There he set up his business, focusing on mail-order house plans that he would market to prospective homeowners across the country. For many Americans in the 1880s and 1890s, Barber was the accessible architect who offered not just a set of blueprints, but a vision, a chance to own something truly special without the high cost of commissioning a big-name firm in a major city. Through an ingenious system of catalogs and wide-reaching advertisements, Barber introduced prospective home builders to the flamboyance of Queen Anne design. Before long, these ornamental, turret-crowned residences cropped up in small towns and large cities from coast to coast. But what made his Queen Anne home so distinctive? Part of the charm lay in their embracing of asymmetry. Rather than a rigid rectangular box, these houses often boasted multiple gables, projecting bays, and unexpected nooks. Turrets, those small, castle-like towers, added a sense of romance to the roofline. Wraparound porches, sometimes laden with columns, spindlework, or lace-like brackets, created a friendly transition between the interior and the outdoors. Barber also infused designs with elements borrowed from other styles, including Eastlake, seen in the intricate woodwork, colonial revival, and the use of classical columns or pediments, and even shingle style and the occasional sweeping curves of shingled surfaces. Though the term Queen Anne is the broad label we affix to these houses today, in truth, his catalogs displayed a dizzying range of eclectic choices that allowed clients to pick and choose. One plan might sport a conical turret, a triangular dormer, or a porch with turreted spindles, and an elaborate front gabled festoon with half timbering. Another plan might emphasize a more subdued facade with classical columns and fewer ornamental flourishes. Barber's genius was allowing homeowners to customize, mixing and matching details to suit both personal taste and budget. Perhaps the most groundbreaking aspect of Barber's career was his approach to distributing plans. At the time, ordering something from a catalog was not uncommon. Sears, Roebuck & Company famously offered kit houses a few decades later, but Barber was among the earliest to make a substantial living by mailing architectural designs to clients across the country. Interested parties would browse an illustrated catalog, pursuing sketches, renderings, and specifications. Once they found a design they liked, they would write to Barber's office in Knoxville to order the blueprints and sometimes additional consulting for alterations. For an extra fee, Barber's firm would tailor the design to the client's site, local climate, or personal preferences. Sometimes this meant adding a bay window for a scenic vista or expanding the kitchen to accommodate a large family. Other times, a client might want a more modest turret or a simpler porch due to budget constraints. Barber prided himself on being flexible. He wanted to keep his clients satisfied while maintaining the essence of each design's charm. This mail-order system was incredibly successful. Barber's catalogs, featuring titles such as Modern Dwellings and Art and Architecture, were reprinted in multiple editions. They included testimonials from satisfied homeowners, photographs of completed houses, and extensive notes on color schemes, materials, and interior layouts. Through these pages, Barber effectively created a national community of aspiring homeowners, each drawn by the allure of a gracious, high-style Victorian house they could call their own. Barber knew that in order to reach the widest audience, he needed to advertise in periodicals and later in specialized building journals. He wrote articles that showcased his design's uniqueness, convenience, and affordability. One might see an advertisement touting the respectability of owning a Barber-designed Queen Anne with all the modern conveniences, hot and cold running water, indoor plumbing, and rooms laid out to capture cross-ventilation. It's easy to imagine a young couple in a booming Midwestern town flipping through Barber's catalog, starry-eyed at the idea that they too could have one of those charming turreted homes gracing their neighborhood. At a time when personal identity was increasingly expressed through housing style, Victorian culture favored homes as outward symbols of stability and character. Barber's marketing struck a chord with the upwardly mobile families, professional men who wanted to stake a claim in the community, and even wealthy farmers looking to display new prosperity. Though the name Queen Anne might conjure images of an English monarch from centuries past, the American version owes more to a mix of classical and medieval motifs than to anything truly from Anne Stewart's time. The style was heavily influenced by designs of English architect Richard Norman Shaw, who revived centuries-old building elements, steep gables, half-timbering, and large chimneys, blending them with modern engineering. Barber took these influences and melted them with the bric-a-brac of Eastlake porches, the new materials like plate glass for windows readily available thanks to industrial production, and a hearty dose of his own imagination. Additionally, the railways made it easier than ever for decorative wood trim to be mass-produced and shipped throughout the country. Sawmills turned out turned spindles, ornate brackets, and ready-made molding that could be ordered in bulk, a perfect companion industry to Barber's nationwide blueprint mailers. The Barber phenomena saw thousands of residences built in nearly every state, and they were not limited to big city boulevards. Small towns embraced these designs to signal civic pride, with local builders often advertising themselves as approved Barber contractors who knew precisely how to interpret and execute the plans. A buyer might have encountered these residences rising in newly platted neighborhoods, each sporting distinctive turrets or bold color schemes. Some had elaborate polychrome paint jobs, typical of the painted lady aesthetic, using multiple colors to highlight the intricate wood trim and decorative features. His widespread popularity caught the attention of real estate developers who realized that building entire streets of attractive Queen Anne homes based on Barber's or similar pattern book plans could entice new buyers. By the 1890s, many such developments showcased Barber's work, associating it with progress, culture, and a certain refined taste. While the exterior visuals of Barber's Queen Anne houses often steal the show, the interiors were designed for comfort and practicality, at least by late 19th century standards. Long, grand hallways were less common than they had been in earlier house forms. Instead, Barber favored open flow between the formal rooms, often separated by sliding pocket doors that allowed rooms to be joined for social gatherings or closed off for privacy. Large windows provided ample natural light, and the typical interior might feature a spacious parlor for receiving guests, a formal dining room connected to a butler's pantry, and a kitchen at the rear, often with a separate servants' staircase if the household employed domestic help. Bedrooms upstairs might include a nursery, sewing room, or guest room, each with cross ventilation from corner windows. In more opulent plans, a turreted room could serve as a romantic reading nook with panoramic views. Though central heating as we know it was still in its infancy, many of Barber's homes included fireplaces and wood stoves to keep each room snug in the winter. Ornate mantels, tile work, and carved wooden accents turned these hearths into focal points. Indoor plumbing was a prized amenity in an era when many rural homes still relied on outdoor privies. Barber frequently included space for bathrooms in his designs, ensuring homeowners could accommodate new or future plumbing upgrades. While Barber is rightly remembered for his residential pattern book empire, it is sometimes overlooked that his firm also received commissions for schools, churches, and commercial buildings. The same flair for ornamentation that made his houses so admired found its way into civic structures in certain communities. He also experimented with styles beyond Queen Anne, including colonial revival, Tudor revival, and craftsman-inspired designs as the 20th century approached. By the early 1900s, taste in architecture were beginning to change. Several factors contributed. The economic downturn of the 1890s had sobered the market for over-the-top decoration. The new century brought forth a desire for simpler, more rational designs. Modernism was still on a distant horizon, but the seeds of the craftsman style and the Prairie School, exemplified by Frank Lloyd Wright, were already sprouting. These new approaches to design favored horizontal lines, open interiors, and more restrained ornamentation. Additionally, the upkeep of elaborate Queen Anne exteriors proved expensive. Intricate trim required frequent painting and occasional repairs, and homeowners seeking modern convenience sometimes found it harder to retrofit elaborate Victorian layouts with modern systems like electricity, central heating, and updated plumbing. In many ways, the Queen Anne style embodied a more artisanal, handcrafted ethos at a time when American architecture was moving towards standardization and mass production. Despite the fading popularity, Barber's business continued into the early 20th century, shifting its offerings to stay relevant. His catalog series adapted, showing colonial revival motifs and other simplified styles. In a world where new subdivisions can feel repetitive and bland, the sight of a meticulously preserved Queen Anne house captures the imagination. Turrets, spindlework, and stained glass windows are not mere decoration, they evoke a romantic vision of the past. They remind us of an era when artistry and domestic design was highly valued, when homeowners took pride in the small details that proclaimed individual taste, and in Barber's case, it was also about democratizing that artistry. You didn't have to be a scion of wealth in a major city to commission a high-style architect. You could open a catalog, send a letter, and receive your dream home's blueprint in the mail. And while architectural flourishes move in cycles, there will always be a warm spot in our collective hearts for those whimsical Queen Anne flourishes. George F. Barber's designs continue to inspire and to beckon us inside, where every corner might hold a bit of history, a dash of romance, and a reminder that a house can be so much more than just 4 walls and a roof. It can be, in fact, a world of wonder, waiting to be cherished by the next generation of dreamers. And with that, I'll turn it over to you. What did you think about his designs? Could you imagine yourself living in one of the houses we saw today? Let me know down below in the comments section. And while you're there, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an exciting episode of This House.